Good evening and thank you for joining us. The government has proposed multiple transport-related fee hikes. They include doubling parking meter charges to a maximum hourly rate of $16. There will be adjustments too to private electric vehicle license fees. Starting September 28th, the parking meter fees, now $2 per 50 minutes, will be doubled to $4. This man says it has been many years without a fee adjustment, and it is understandable to have a bit of a hike, taking into account inflation and rising parking costs. This man says it's unreasonable to double the charges, as government parking should not be profit-driven like private car parks. The Transport and Logistics Bureau says the goal is to improve the turnover of metered parking spaces and better manage limited roadside parking resources. For goods vehicles, buses and tour buses, the parking meter charges remain unchanged. The proposed fee hike will be gazetted next Friday and submitted to the Legislative Council on July 23rd. Authorities also want to raise fixed penalty fines for traffic violations, which have been unchanged for 31 years. The fixed penalty for illegal parking has been proposed to go up from $320 to $400. Speeding fines may rise from the current range of $320 to $1,000 to between $480 and $1,500, depending on the speed in excess. Entering a yellow box junction illegally may be punishable by a fine of $600, up from $400. The relevant amendments will be put to a vote at the legislature on July 30th, with the effective date specified in each individual proposal. And starting in November, license fees for private electric vehicles may no longer be based on their weight, but on their rated power output. The Transport and Logistics Bureau says using weight to calculate fees has resulted in license fees for EVs being on average 6 times lower than those for petrol-powered vehicles. So, a new system with a 5-tier fee structure has been proposed. EVs with less than 75 kilowatt rated output will pay $1,500 a year. Those over 225 kilowatt will be charged $5,000. Starting in March 2027, the rates will increase gradually over 4 years. Authorities say even after the suggested full fee hikes, EV license fees will still be 25% lower than those for petrol cars. The government says it is keeping its target of ending new registrations of petrol private vehicles by 2035, aiming to encourage a gradual transition to electric mobility. The government proposed raising the tolls for the Aberdeen Tunnel and Shingmun tunnels from $5 to $8 starting September. The toll for Central Kowloon Bypass, meanwhile, will be lowered to $8 from the $10 earlier proposed. Samantha Lee tells us more.
The Central Kowloon Bypass, which runs between Yau Ma Tei and Kowloon Bay, is expected to open in 2026. The government had earlier suggested a toll of $10. Having considered opinions from the community and lawmakers, the authority decided to lower the toll to $8, hoping to divert traffic from busy main roads in Kowloon. This taxi driver said it is good to hear a fare reduction under a gloomy economy. While this driver believes $8 or $10 should not make a big difference to passengers who are in a hurry. Lawmaker Bill Tang from the Kowloon East constituency believes most of the commuters can afford $8, citing that the Eagle's Nest Tunnel also charges $8. As for Aberdeen Tunnel and Shingmun tunnels, whose tolls have remained unchanged for 34 years, the government proposed a hike from the current $5 to $8, starting September 21st. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
The government and the MTR Corporation have agreed on the details of the construction of the Northern Link. The Highways Department said most of the mainland standards, practices and resources are applicable to the project, which could reduce the construction costs of the Northern Link by more than 20%. Samantha Lee again.
The MTR's Northern Link will become the mass transportation backbone for the northern metropolis. The main line will run through the metropolis with 5 stations for Kam Shan Road to Kutong. The cross-border spur line, meanwhile, connects the local MTR network to the new Huanggang port in Shenzhen. In view of its cross-boundary elements, the project will adopt mainland standards, practices and resources to improve efficiency. The Highways Department will work with the Building Technology Research Institute, or BTRI, to handle building submissions in a manner which streamlines the overall project workflow and expedites procedures. Tony Yao, director of the Highways Department, said Hong Kong's railway standards are largely influenced by the UK and Europe. He said mainland standards are even higher and are applicable to Hong Kong in areas such as concrete and steel structure, signal system and foundation, with adjustment needed in some areas.
That new standard will incorporate the edge or the good things of the Guobao standard. And I think that the BTRI maybe invite some specialists or consultants from the mainlands to support in interpret the details of the Guobao standard.
With the new planning and the use of mainland standards, the construction cost of the Northern Link is expected to be lowered by 20 to 30%, with the first part costing around $31.4 billion. The Highways Department says they will look into using mainland standards and construction methods in the future road development projects in a bid to lower costs and speed up construction. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
Tropical cyclone Denaz is moving across Fujian. According to the present forecast, Denaz will move southwest, weaken gradually, and enter Guangdong tomorrow. Though Denaz has weakened, winds are still strong in Fujian province. Mainland weather authorities have lifted the blue typhoon warning but maintained a yellow rainstorm warning with heavy rain falling in southern China. Although Fujian halted typhoon response measures this morning, a flood control alert remains in force. The active southwest monsoon to the south of Denaz will generally affect the vicinity of Pearl River estuary tomorrow and on Friday. There will be torrential rain and squally thunderstorms over Hong Kong, and the observatory will consider issuing the strong monsoon signal depending on the local wind change. The U.S. government has announced that it will start restricting purchases of farmland by Chinese nationals and other foreign adversaries. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins said the National Farm Security Action Plan will protect American agriculture from foreign threats.
American agriculture is not just about feeding our families, but about protecting our nation and standing up to foreign adversaries who are buying our farmland, stealing our research, and creating dangerous vulnerabilities in the very systems that sustain us.
China ranks number 20 on the list of foreign owners of U.S. agricultural land, holding just over 112,000 hectares at the end of 2023, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Rollins said the Trump administration plans to claw back what has already been purchased by China and other adversaries. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth also stated the Pentagon would ban sales to foreign adversaries of farmland located near U.S. military bases. In reply, the Foreign Ministry in Beijing has warned that the plan is against international trade rules and will only backfire. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced plans to impose a tariff of 50% on all copper imported into his country, and he will introduce long-threatened levies on semiconductors and pharmaceuticals. He also reiterated his threat of 10% tariffs on products from members of the BRICS group of countries. Still, the U.S. president claimed trade negotiations with China and the EU are going well. Danny Rao tells us more.
Speaking during a cabinet meeting on Tuesday, U.S. President Donald Trump said a new tariff of 50% will be imposed on all copper imported into the United States, but did not give a specific time when the new tariff will take effect. Trump added he is still planning tariffs on select industries, including drugs, semiconductors, and metals. He also said new tariffs as high as 200% might be put on foreign-made pharmaceutical products, but may not take effect in the near term for purposes of getting more companies to move to the United States. The U.S. president reiterated his threat of an additional 10% tariff on imports from Brazil, India, and other members of the BRICS group of countries that have discussed creating alternatives to the U.S. dollar.
The dollar is king. We're going to keep it that way, okay? And I'm just saying, if people want to challenge it, they can, but they're going to have to pay a big price. And I don't think any of them are willing to pay that price.
Trump said trade talks have been going well with the European Union and China. Trump said he'll probably tell the European Union within 2 days what rate it can expect for its exports to the US, adding that the 27-member bloc has been treating his administration very nicely in trade talks. The EU, the largest bilateral trade partner of the US, aims to strike a deal before August 1st, with concessions for key export industries such as aircraft, medical equipment and spirits. Brussels is also considering an arrangement that will protect European automakers with large US production facilities. The US and China agreed to a trade framework in June. With many details still unclear, traders and investors are watching to see if it unravels before a separate US-imposed August 12th deadline or leads to a lasting détente. Still, Trump claimed his administration has had a really good relationship with China lately.
I think we have had a really good relationship with China lately, and we're getting along with them very well. They've been very fair on our trade deal, honestly. And I hope we're going to have a great relationship. I'm getting along with President Xi very well. We speak often. And with all of that being said, and I understand what you're saying, but I think we're getting along with China very well.
Meanwhile, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Washington has taken in about $100 billion in tariff income so far this year. He claimed this could grow to $300 billion by the end of 2025 as collections accelerate from Trump's trade campaign. Trump himself, referencing his new deadline for the higher reciprocal tariff rates, said the big money will start coming in on August 1st. Dan Rowell, TV News.
Welcome back. French President Emmanuel Macron is in the UK for a 3-day visit. He said on Tuesday that the two countries must work together to counter the world's many destabilizing threats and protect Europe from excessive dependencies on the United States and China. Tracy Furness has more.
Flying into London's military airport, RAF Northolt, French President Emmanuel Macron and wife Brigitte were greeted by the Prince and Princess of Wales. The French leader is on a 3-day state visit to Britain on the invitation of King Charles III. King Charles and Queen Camilla formally greeted France's first couple at Windsor. After the playing of the French national anthem, the Macrons and the King and Queen left for Windsor Castle in a horse-drawn carriage, the Prince and Princess of Wales in a carriage behind them. At Windsor Castle, King Charles and the French President inspected the troops, then reviewed a guard of honour. Inside the castle, they viewed a display of French-themed items from the royal collection, some of which were said to belong to Napoleon and Marie Antoinette. At a state banquet at Windsor Castle, King Charles toasted a new era of Franco-British cooperation.
We marked 120 years of the Entente Cordiale last year with your Garde Républicaine parading alongside the King's Guard at Buckingham Palace, while number 7 company of the Coldstream Guards joined their French comrades on the courtyard of the Élysée. This unprecedented ceremonial moment reflected the depth of our country's modern-day cooperation.
In the spirit of that cooperation, Macron addressed the British Parliament saying the two countries need to work together to help reduce dependencies on the US and China.
If the Europeans, if the United Kingdom and France do not work together in order to build solid value chain, in order to reduce our dependencies on these critical areas I mentioned, if we still depend on both China and the US, I think we have a clear view of our future.
Tracy Furness, TVB News.
The annual meeting of the Association of the Southeast Asian Nations Foreign Ministers has opened in the Malaysian capital, Kuala Lumpur, as U.S. tariffs loom. China's top diplomat Wang Yi is expected to join his counterparts from tomorrow for ASEAN and ASEAN Plus 3 talks. Danny Zhou reports.
The 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting series kicked off at the Kuala Lumpur Convention Centre with an opening ceremony this morning. Over 1,500 delegates from the 10-member bloc and its external partner countries are participating in high-level meetings spanning 4 days under the theme Inclusivity and Sustainability. The Prime Minister of ASEAN Chair Malaysia, Anwar Ibrahim, said in an address that tariffs, export restrictions and investment barriers have become the sharpened instruments of geopolitical rivalry, without directly referring to the US. He described the current global landscape as one marked by the unraveling of assumptions where power unsettles principle, urging member states to stay united and reinforce ASEAN centrality.
This is no passing storm. It is a new weather of our time. ASEAN must confront this reality with clarity and conviction.
Anwar's remarks come at a time when the region grapples with uncertainty over Washington's latest trade policies. On Monday, US President Donald Trump set new tariff rates of between 25% and 40% on 6 Southeast Asian nations, including Malaysia, Indonesia and Myanmar, that would go into effect from August the 1st unless deals are made. Some local merchants have been seeking ways to transfer their markets and expand exports to China and the Middle East. Lei Zhixiong, chairman of the Malaysia Entrepreneurs Development Association, said that should the tariffs take effect, they would work to transfer 20 to 30% of orders for America to other markets, such as China, India and Mideastern countries. Lei declared the profit margin in exports for Malaysian manufacturing is not as high as 30%. He stated, in response to the hike, businesses will have to raise their prices to avoid incurring a loss. Thus, consumers will ultimately bear the burden. Some Malaysian scholars think there's still room for trade negotiations.
It's a negotiation strategy. He's just using this as a strategy to push things, to expedite discussion, because trade negotiations usually take time. They take months, sometimes years, and President Trump does not have that time.
The professor further noted she'd rather see negotiations for small countries happen in a group than individually, because otherwise they would not have any bargaining power. She expressed hopes ASEAN members could use the meeting to discuss ways to tackle the challenges posed by the tariff war in a collaborative manner. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
Amid the tariff wars, Hong Kong businesses have been urged to explore Latin American markets. Being the region's largest economy, Brazil has witnessed growing Chinese investment. Take a look. 18,000 kilometers away from Hong Kong, Brazil has no direct flights to the SAR, meaning it takes at least 30 hours to travel between the two places. Rich in iron ore and biofuels, the South American behemoth faces only 10% US tariffs, which in turn wooed some Chinese merchants to seek opportunities in this emerging market. A Rio de Janeiro travel agency received Chinese business delegations almost every week. Estrella Wang, head of the travel agency, said the delegates hail from different sectors, from mobile screen manufacturers to the beauty industry and sellers of farm machinery. Brazil is often called the granary of the world due to a significant role in global food production, including meat, soybeans and fruit sold in Hong Kong. F&B Group Chairman Simon Wong, who has imported Brazilian coffee beans for years, noted the China-built twin ocean railway linking Brazil to Peru's port of Chancay may cut shipping time between Hong Kong and Brazil from 45 to 25 days. Wong said that also trims logistics costs by a quarter. President of the China-Brazil Exchange Association Wu Zhaoxiao moved from Zhejiang to Brazil more than 2 decades ago and has worked in retail and wholesale businesses. He said Chinese here succeed through hard work, but Brazilians now toil as hard, which also accelerates market growth. Hong Kong native Marcos Ma relocated to Brazil some 50 years ago. He said Brazilians are optimistic and friendly. Beer, barbecue and beaches are enough to bring them joy. But he noted Brazil's strict labor laws mean higher litigation risks for employers. Another challenge, frequent violence, which has worsened post-pandemic. While Chinese residents in Rio and Sao Paulo say nearly all merchants have been robbed before, some locals argue such security woes are exaggerated. Jacqueline, TVB News. A truck and a bus collided at the intersection of Sa Mau Ping Road and Lin Tak Road in Kwun Tong this morning, resulting in 12 people being injured, including the 2 drivers. The accident happened at around 9:30 a.m. The front and cargo container of the truck were severely damaged, with goods and containers scattered all over the road. The windscreen of the driver's compartment was damaged. Some bus passengers were injured, with some requiring on-site treatment. As a result of the accident, both directions of Lin Tak Road were closed, and multiple bus routes had to be diverted. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.